I feel like this one's gonna be a quickie. Welcome to Life Study Library. This is your host, Lye Yosh. In this channel, you'll be able to learn about these interesting and educational information on science and psychology that you can use in your own life. Today's topic is about why introverts can make a great leader, perhaps even a better one compared to extroverts. I read a book titled The Powerful Purpose of Introverts: Why the World Needs You to Be You by Holley Gerth, who is a prominent life coach and a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. I was initially a little skeptical about this book, but it actually used evidence from various scientific research and data to prove its point, so it was a pretty interesting read. I've recommended another book about introversion in the past, if I recall correctly, which the title is Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain, which this one is a really famous book concerning its topic, and I would also fully recommend it. But I'm confident that the powerful purpose of introverts is also capable of becoming a classic within the topic. And so, for today's video, I'll talk about what I've learned from that book and what I think might be valuable information for you guys. Mainly about how a person's overall personality gets categorized into either extroversion or introversion, a possible cause within the neural system that might make someone more introverted and seem more indecisive than others. And of course, how an introverted person might be able to use their introversion effectively and succeed in life without forcing a change in their personality. If you haven't subscribed or liked the channel, I'll give you some time to do all that. I'll get coffee in the meantime. Okay, interesting point I found in the book number 1. While the difference between introversion and extroversion is commonly understood by the larger public as a difference between being social or not, when observed from a neurological perspective, their differences are much larger. For instance, an extroverted personality involves the strong activity of hormones like dopamine, adrenaline, or the sympathetic nervous system, and introversion has a lot of activity in the acetylcholine, or the parasympathetic nervous system. Evidently, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerve systems are involved in energy consumption and energy reduction, respectively. And depending on which one of them works harder for you, your introversion/extroversion spectrum is decided. Number 2. When scanned, a large difference between brains of introverts and extroverts were observed, specifically how their brains operated when consuming information. To put it simply, while the brains of extroverts had a much shorter and simpler info-processing brain system, those of introverts were much longer and complex. This means that when doing the same task, like talking to a stranger, introverts, compared to extroverts, take longer to process that information and take some action. This can explain why extroverts tend to be more impulsive compared to introverts when taking some kind of an action, making them look like they're more decisive and confident. I understand I'm sounding like I'm talking smack about extroverts, but there are advantages and disadvantages to both extroverts and introverts, which I'll explain later. Number 3 was pretty interesting. Apparently, there's a country where introverts might be able to live happily, called Finland. In general, Finland is known to have a lot of introverted citizens, and in order to advertise its country for tourism and stuff, they focused on the quiet and tranquil part of their culture, and emphasized on the affinity towards the stance. This is interesting, right? Because normally you think that the way to advertise your country is to promote the liveliness or the stimulating attractions, but as a result of promoting the calming side of its country, Finland saw a drastic increase in tourism, which made the country richer, ultimately growing its economy. Yeah, you can probably tell that I'm gonna visit Finland pretty soon, before the balance of tourism and tranquility gets out of control. But what I'm trying to say is that in order for introverts to demonstrate their potential, they should focus on utilizing their strengths rather than trying to fit in with the crowd. As my recommended book literally says in its title, the world is overcrowded with extroverted people and people who pursue extroversion as the ideal personality, making it seem like introverts do not have a place in society. However, science and psychology have proven numerous times that there are things that introverts can do better, and when used effectively, can become strengths that are unmatched by extroverts. One of those skills is listening. places like Harvard University have found that human brains get a great amount of stimulation and excitement from getting listened, so much so that the effects equate to receiving a monetary reward. So introverts can combine this skill with some additional leadership skills to train the ability to influence others and gain supporters and followers as a result. Many influencers or negotiators, people who are tasked with altering the mindset of their audiences in order to gain things, many of them are actually great listeners. And because introverts are often categorized as the minority, when they hone these hidden potential tailored to them, we can become irreplaceable resources. In fact, other research reveals that around 53% of millionaires are known to be introverts. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk are all excellent examples. This occurrence is demonstrated even in longitudinal studies, which examined its samples for around 10 years. Number 4. What introverts tend to consider as a disadvantage is actually a hidden strength that extroverts often lack. Because introverts usually avoid getting to the front lines to gather attention, they are able to carefully observe and analyze their environment. And because introverts are also usually very good at observing other people, they are skilled at emphasizing and connecting with the emotions of people around them, whereas extroverts can essentially ignore what other people are thinking and only pay attention to themselves, which is a strength in a different area. But due to this ability, introverts can be easily affected by the emotions of those around them, which can potentially lead to their emotional state becoming unstable. As a result, introverts tend to view their trait only from a negative perspective and tries to eliminate or change their personality. Rather, they would be much better advised to stop focusing on their weaknesses and instead focus on improving their strengths. For example, introverts and their skill of observation and info gathering can be used effectively in careers like data analysis, research, IT, or engineering. These are just some example careers that are hugely catered to introverts and their traits. So if they can work out these jobs while understanding what their strength is and where that strength should be focused on, they will be able to succeed in their careers. And as a result, their perception of their introverted personality might change from a disadvantage to a hidden potential. All this leaves just one more question. If all these information are true, then do extroverts have any place to shine in the leadership position? I do understand that throughout this video I have stood a little too much on the introverted side, so I'll get my extrovert supporters back by claiming that being extroverted is also a key factor in becoming a good leader. You have to watch the video I recommended to understand the entirety, but I'll just say that the key is not to be an extrovert, but to be extroverted. If you're interested, please check out the video in the description. I've been your host, Lye Yosh. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to Life Study Library, and share the channel to others. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace!